Hello, everyone. This is Jenna Ryan, your self-love life coach. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I'm going to talk about, are you triggered or pissed? Triggered or pissed? There is a difference, and we're going to get into that today. I'm so excited to have some energy and some space in my head to share this information with you. You know, I love you guys. You know, I appreciate you. All the likes, all the comments, all the shares are invaluable to my channel. I need it. It really helps to promote the channel, especially since there's been a dip in my viewers. So I really need you guys to like and comment and have conversations below about the topic that we're talking about today. Triggered or pissed? It's one thing to be triggered. Being triggered is a process of being triggered to a past trauma. A lot of people talk about being triggered today. It's just like a word everybody uses for anything. I'm triggered. I'm triggered. That triggers me. And the problem is that the meaning of the word gets lost in its overusage. It just gets overloaded with meaning, so the true meaning of the word becomes diluted. And that is diluted, and people just assign it to any situation they want to without being fully aware of what they're saying or what the meaning of the word is. So today I'm going to talk about being triggered versus being pissed, because just because you're pissed doesn't mean you're triggered. You could be pissed when you're triggered, but being pissed alone does not make you triggered. So that's what we're going to talk about. I think I'll start by talking about being pissed. Whenever you are insulted, whenever someone does something bad to you, whenever someone purposefully says something rude to you or does something rude to you or treats you like crap or tries to put one over you, get one up you, a narcissist tries to extract information from you and use it against you. Whenever you are treated that way, it causes an emotion to form. And that emotion is anger. And anger is a healthy emotion. I know that anger gets a bad rap because some people take it too far. Some people have anger issues, but that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the good kind of anger that lets you know when your boundaries have been crossed. Anger is a healthy emotion in healthy people. If you're a toxic person and you're angry, that could be a different story. I'm not going to address that right now. Right now, I'm going to talk about healthy anger. Anger is an emotion that protects you, that is there to protect you. It tells you, hey, this person just went too far. This institution just ticked me off. I just got angry. And don't fall for this whitewashing of anger, and where everybody's calling an angry woman a Karen. I find that to be extremely sexist. I don't like that. Just because someone is angry and they have to express their anger, you want to be moderate. You don't want to be a raving lunatic. But expressing your anger moderately is acceptable, and it's expected, and it's helpful to protect yourself from people who are abusing you, people who are stepping out of line with you, people who are crossing your boundaries, or just plain being insulting towards you. Anger is good. Being pissed is good. I am not saying that anger is a fun emotion, but it is one of the 5 primary emotions that is felt by every human being. This is a universal emotion, anger. Anger occurs when you are betrayed, when you feel harmed, when you feel like you are not being treated fairly, you have a sense of anger. You can have righteous anger. But this is not really going to be about anger. But I am going to validate anger or being pissed off when someone is rude to you. You have a tendency when someone is rude to you, if you are in touch with your truth, if you are standing firm in your self-love, then when someone says something rude to you, you are going to be angry. And that is okay. It's okay to be pissed. It's okay to be angry. It is absolutely okay, and it's natural. It's natural to be angry or pissed when someone does something to you that is shameless. When someone treats you shamelessly and comes out from the woodwork and comes and says something rude to you, and they're a close friend or have been a close friend or a family member or spouse or a relationship, whatever it is, and they say something that is wrong, that is rude, that is hurtful, your reaction, you can react. All reactions do not mean that you're reactive. Sometimes reactions are necessary to send a message to your own internal system as well as to the other person that you have just crossed the line with me. That is not okay. No one is going to act completely calm and as if they have no emotions with all instances. If someone comes to you and passively aggressively provokes you and you react, that is not the same thing as being triggered. You can react and be angry or be pissed and make a statement with moderation, and it doesn't mean that you are triggered. In my view, in my vernacular, in my definition, and that's from a lot of study, and that's from a lot of personal growth, and that's from a lot of development that I've done personally, that being triggered is not the same as reacting with anger. And there's no person in the world that is going to always have a complete, non-reactive response to everything that comes their way. That is not the epitome of health. If you are non-reactive to everything, that means you are a corpse. That means you're not alive. That means that you are dulled. Perhaps you're taking some sort of medication to cause you to really have a flat affect. But anger or being pissed off at a person for saying something rude to you that they clearly know is rude, okay? They don't even have to clearly know. It's just, it's rude and you're pissed and you have a right to respond with curtness. You have the right to respond and be curt. And what I've found in these kinds of situations is that this vernacular of being triggered is being overused, and it's being used as a weapon against someone who's pissed. So, for example, I had someone text me out of the blue yesterday, day before yesterday, and they said something rude to me. And I immediately reacted in anger. It wasn't, it was pretty strong. I was pretty strong in my anger because I saw it for what it was. I saw what they were doing, and I was like, that is bad. I let them have it. And I'm not the kind to usually do that. Normally what I would do is just block the person and never speak to them again. But in this case, I felt it necessary to just say, let that person have a piece of my mind via text, not, in any other way. And my physical body, my emotional state was very calm. So I wasn't like rah, 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 out of control. I was very calmly saying, you can stick that where the sun doesn't shine, and that is so rude. And I calmly said it. So it didn't penetrate my being. This person called me up. They knew me. They called me up and said something extraordinarily rude, extraordinarily insensitive, and it was very apparent that this person is seething with envy, and due to their envy, they had to do this and lash out at me passively aggressively. And so I just responded in like kind, but I was not passive. I was direct. And I said, don't be doing that. That's low. And so that is being pissed. I was pissed that I'm minding my own business, going about my day, doing my wonderful thing. Someone reaches out to me, contacts me, and says something off the wall rude and pretends like they're not being rude, pretends like they don't know what they're doing, which is bullcrap. When someone calls you out of the blue and starts and says something rude, they know what they're doing. Do not give them the benefit of the doubt, because in the furtherance of this particular conversation, the next thing this person said was also in the same energy level, negative, hurt, trying to be hurtful, and it was all in the same plane. So I had called it like it was. You just can't do that to somebody who's personally developed. Somebody like myself who has the personal development that I have, you can't come and try to bring something to me and trigger me. You just can't do it. So, but you can piss me off, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you the difference between that type of scenario and a scenario where you are triggered. And of course, I can still be triggered, but the difference between someone who's personally developed and who's triggered and someone who is, just raw emotion, who hasn't really healed their wounds and hasn't been able to work through and process their stuff, they're going to be a lot more reactive. But there's a difference, okay? There's a difference between being calm and pissed and being assertively taking up for yourself and calling a person out on the carpet. And there's a difference between that, being pissed, and triggered. When you are triggered, the definition of triggered, if you look it up on Google, is whenever you're triggered to some type of trauma. And I'm going to take it a step further. From my understanding, being triggered is really when something happens, and it could be the same scenario. Someone could say something rude to you, okay? But it's when you internalize that rudeness. So whenever someone who is acting shamelessly attacks you or says something rude, there's a million ways to be triggered, but just let's say they say something rude and you immediately feel a dip in your spirit, a dip in your heart. And those of you who have struggled with self-love will understand what I'm talking about, especially if you get in tune with your internal dialogue, with your internal gut feelings. If you're in tune with your internal gut feelings, you will be able to instantly feel when someone triggers you. Being triggered is more than being pissed, although you can become pissed when you're triggered. Being triggered is when your internal system, your heart, your shame core, the part of you that has held on, the wounded part of you that is still basted in toxic shame. When the toxic shame, when their insult, their fiery dart hits your toxic shame and you go into a shame spiral, which means you're dissociating, you're coming off of who you are, and you've internalized the negative thing that they've sent your way, and you've internalized it, which means you believe it in a sense. Now, cognitively, you may know better, but your heart, your inner child, the deep part of you, maybe the broken off part of you that you have ignored, maybe just the part of you that can be wounded, has been wounded, and you are triggered. When a person is triggered like this, they go into a shame spiral and they begin to question themselves and they begin to worry about what the other person said and worry about whether it's true. And then they begin to feel really badly and they may lash out, but it's not assertive. It's more of a lashing out just in agony because the person has just caused so much pain and just tapped into a part of you that maybe you don't know is there. Maybe you think it's you, but it's not. Because toxic shame is shame that's not yours. Toxic shame is shame that results from trauma. When a child is traumatized, the only thing that can fill the void is toxic shame, because a child takes on the shame of the parent. The child, like a sponge, takes on the shame of the parent who is not being there for them, which is called neglect. The parent that is abandoning them, divorcing, whatever it is that the parent is doing that's not fostering validation, mirroring, all of those things in its place, in its stead, is toxic shame, which means the parent has shame that they're passing on to the offspring. This toxic shame is an emotion that where the child, I know you probably heard, the child always takes the blame. A child is programmed, pre-wired to take the blame for anything that happens. That's why it's important to get a child into therapy and help them if they've gone through a traumatic situation, because they don't have the cognitive ability yet to decipher between themselves and others, and they have the need to idolize their parents, and they see their parents as God, and the thought of their parents not being omniscient, omnipresent, godlike, the thought of that would lead them to feel too vulnerable. So in order to hedge that feeling that their parents are flawed, they take the blame and they cave in on themselves and they hold it all. And what they're holding is termed toxic shame. So toxic shame is triggered when someone comes to you and says something rude or mean, or treats you in a way that pings that toxic shame, pings your toxic shame and causes you to overreact. So overreaction is commonly what you would get if you've been triggered. Like you just overreact to something very simple or to something they didn't even mean to do. You know, they may not have even meant to hurt your feelings and you're just going ballistic. That is being triggered. And being triggered also can display itself in many other ways. And I want to do another video called Toxic Shame Triggers, where we can talk all about toxic shame. But I really just want to focus on toxic shame, or triggered or pissed. So when you are pissed, it's not the same as going into a shame spiral, hating on yourself, internalizing the rude thing the person said, thinking it's your fault, thinking you deserve it, all of those things. There's two different types of responses to someone who is rude to you. Okay? One response that's healthy is being pissed. Being pissed at the equivalence of that person's actions. So if that person says something rude, they may have said it in a nice, sweet way. Oh, I didn't know that was mean. Okay, that's gaslighting. When someone comes to you and passively aggressively slaps you in the face, not literally, but emotionally, just texts you something really rude, that is passive aggressive attack. That's a passive aggressive attack. And when you respond at their level of attack, but you're more direct, then that's a direct response to their indirect, fake niceness that's really an insult. Their fake backhanded compliment, their fake backhanded statement. And you're coming to them and saying, no, that is wrong. You better, that is rude. That is wrong. And you're telling them that you know. And that person comes to you and says, oh, I'm sorry I triggered you. You are wrong. That's not a trigger. I'm too smart for this. That is not a trigger. That is me being pissed. Okay? I was pissed that this woman the day before yesterday texted me this. And it's such a good, I love it because it's like an object lesson. It's something that I can tangibly see and I can tangibly explain and I can tangibly share. And that's why I love that it happened, you know? It's like I'm actually grateful because I handled it with the most beautiful way a woman can handle that kind of treatment. And maybe in the past, something like that might have really struck my chord, may have really hurt me internally. But since I know who I am, since I love myself, since I know that this person is envious and they're just attacking me because they're jealous, because they can't do whatever it is that I'm doing and they wish they could, but they never can. So they had to attack me to make themselves feel better, to try to take me down a notch. But I was able to see through all of that immediately, automatically. Rather than having to think about it, rather than even accepting for one moment that that could be true, what the person said, I simply went back and just went, boom. No, that's not going to work. You've got the wrong girl. Stop trying to do that to me. Is that triggered? No. But this person said, I'm sorry I triggered you. I mean, really? That is giving that person's trying to take way more credit than they deserve. The only person who knows if they have been triggered or not is the person who's been triggered. Because being triggered is not an external reaction. It can cause one to overreact, okay? It can cause you to overreact. It can cause you to have a massive panic attack just because you're going to meet a friend for coffee. That's trigger. That means you've been triggered. That means you've been reverted back to a child state that doesn't know how to cope. But if you're a resourced woman, if you're at the high level that you're at, that you have personal development coming out your ears, then it is possible for you just to be pissed, not triggered. And for someone else to say, oh, I'm sorry I triggered you, when you're simply angry and reacting to their creepy behavior, and they're saying they triggered you, they are telling you in that one word that their crappy behavior, that it's your fault for responding to their crappy behavior. When they say, I'm sorry, you're so sensitive. I triggered you. That is them saying that they're just fine and dandy. They've done nothing wrong. And you are the one who's triggered. Okay? You're triggered, which means, kind of tells you that they're trying to trigger you. But if you have strength within, they can't trigger you because you already know who you are. If you know who you are, and if you have all the pieces of yourself integrated, and you're in charge of your entire self system, and if you're not, you know where to go to get healing, which is God, and you know how to heal, you know how to journal, you know how to get over things, and you've already been doing that for years. When someone comes up and tries to poke you, tries to trigger you, tries to tell you that you're something that you're not, or tries to bring up things that would hurt you or could potentially hurt you, and you get pissed off about it, that doesn't mean you're triggered. You might just be pissed. And you have a right to be pissed when someone comes and emotionally attacks you. You have a right to be pissed whenever someone comes and tries to hold things over your head and make veiled threats. Not, they're being indirect, covert, making veiled threats, insulting you, and trying to bring up things in your life that anything to make you feel bad. And then they're going to turn around and call you triggered. You think? No. Not whenever you have health. Not whenever you have health. Not whenever you have well-being. Not when you know who you are. Not when you have self-love. When you have self-love, you can call a spade, and you can be pissed when someone who pretends to be your friend comes to you with bullcrap. Okay? You can easily go, no, that is, ugh. You can be pissed. Being pissed is okay. You have to be moderate. You don't want to, take action and do things, go ballistic. But you can be pissed. It's okay to be pissed. And if they want to call you triggered, then let them think that. They obviously are skewed if they're having to come to you like that and they don't have a life of their own to focus on their own selves, and they have to project their own nasty self-worthlessness that they feel onto you and come to you like that. And you have every right to smash it back and say, I'm not putting up with that. You got the wrong person. If you want to pull this kind of treatment, you might want to go to someone who's weak, who doesn't know your number, who can't call your number, who doesn't know your number, who can't see you. But I can see what you're doing, and I am pissed. Okay? That can be, being pissed is not being triggered. And you're allowed to be pissed. And no one can just go through life with no reactivity whatsoever. The ultimate goal in life is not to become non-reactive to everything on the planet. That would make you so dull. That would dull your senses. No one can say you're triggered. Only you can say you're triggered. So if someone else is coming to you and saying, oh, you were triggered, it's like, you can think about it and go, yeah, I was triggered. You're right. I was triggered. You can think about it because that might help you. Someone saying that, and a third party saying that, it might help you to go, oh, this is what being triggered feels like. But whenever the person who's doing it to you says that you're triggered, wow, really? You're going to come, you're going to be passive aggressive, say something rude, and then when I react, you're going to say I'm triggered? Because being triggered is something that's that's overreactive. It's overreaching. It's acting, it's immoderate. It's not moderate acting. It's going overboard. Whereas in being triggered, the person who's triggering you really doesn't need to be telling you you're triggered. But if they do, if they really love you and you really are being triggered, then, somebody might need to say something that might be helpful to you, because only you can resolve your own triggers. You can resolve your own triggers by working with the PTSD that you have related to the abuse that you experienced or whatever. You can work on the toxic shame. You can work on releasing shame, healing shame, recognizing shame, becoming aware of shame, and healing that part of you. That I don't believe in getting rid of anything. I think you need to integrate everything and hold on to everything and love on everything. And then the shame, the pain of shame goes away. But it is very distinct. The feeling of being triggered and being in a shame spiral is very distinct from a powerful place of being pissed and taking up for yourself. Being triggered and going into a shame spiral and blaming yourself and lashing out and being angry and being sad and crying and feeling like crap for 5 days, that is different from being strong and angry and assertive and taking up for yourself. So triggered or pissed, you get to decide what you are. And usually, if you're wondering, you're probably triggered. If you're wondering if you went too far or whatever, it's probably triggered. But I do encourage you to start really getting a feel for the difference between being triggered, where you overreact, you're just, in pain, feeling anxiety, feeling pain, feeling less than, internalizing their negative comment and not knowing what to do with it, that's being triggered. When you hear a negative comment and you immediately know that that's not how things are going to work in your life and that person is incorrect and that person needs to go and shut the front door, that's different. That's called assertiveness. That's called pissed. And if that person calls you triggered, they are really stepping out of line. You know, if somebody comes and attacks you and you respond with a get the hell out of my life or get the hell out, that shut up, that's not good, whatever you say, and they say you're triggered for being responsive to their bad actions, then they have a big problem. They are obviously trying to take over your solar plexus and they need to go get a life because you're not going to allow that to happen. No, they can't trigger you. You cannot trigger someone who is strong and healthy and who knows who she is or knows who he is. That is not possible. I mean, it is possible for one to be triggered, but, you know, you just work through it and it's beautiful. You know, if somebody would actually trigger me, then I could work on that particular thing. But that's not what happened in this case. And it was funny because she was like, oh, I triggered you. I'm sorry I triggered you. I'm just going to go back and watch TV now. It's like, oh my gosh. You just go ahead and watch TV, but just know that this lady right here is not putting up with that sort of thing. And, you know, if you want to go trigger someone, you better go trigger someone who doesn't know who she is. And maybe you should go work on your own self instead of practicing reaching out, attacking others passive aggressively, claiming you didn't mean to do it or you didn't mean it that way, and then bring up even more stuff which proves that that person was trying to hurt me. It was so interesting. And I was just like, wow, this is so cool. Even though it made me mad, and even though I let her know, even though it made me pissed and I let her know, at the end of the day, I got to laugh about it because I'm like, wow, this is like a great video. This is a great audio. I now know the difference. I mean, I've always known the difference, but now I've been able to explain the difference between being pissed and triggered. And being triggered is way, 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 way deeper and way different and than being pissed. It's okay to just be pissed. It's okay. That doesn't mean you're triggered. And don't let anyone tell you how you feel because that's called invalidation. Don't let anybody tell you if you're triggered or not because they don't know what they're talking about. Only you can say whether you're triggered. And if you are, then you can go back to the person if you overreacted to their, simple, where they did nothing and you overreacted, or maybe they did something and you overreacted, then you can go back and apologize and say, I was triggered. I apologize when this happened. This is the story that I told myself and I apologize. And, I'm not happy with what you said. However, I know you didn't mean it or whatever the case may be. But in this situation that I'm talking about where I was pissed, this lady, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously or whatever, did it on purpose, then did it again in the same conversation after I let her know that that was wrong, and then did it again, and then accused me of being triggered. So that's a totally different situation. You want to stay away from people that passive aggressively come and attack you on a beautiful Saturday. And so that is what I wanted to share today. I got it out. I'm so excited. Be sure to leave a comment. Let me know about a time that you were triggered. And let me know the difference for you, how you know something where you're just pissed and you have a right to stand up for yourself. You have a right to set a boundary. You have a right to be angry, because that's what anger is for, is to show us when we need to set boundaries, or when you were just triggered and you overreacted. Okay? Let me know in the comments below. You guys are awesome. Until next time, this is Jenna Ryan, and I will talk to you soon.